Here's your video summary. Today, we'll talk about shadowing, why it's important, how to land multiple shadowing experiences, what to do while you're shadowing, and how to wrap it up after it all ends. This one tends to be an obstacle for a lot of pre-meds, so hopefully this will get you on the right track. Without further ado, let's get started. Shadowing is an unspoken requirement, but the important question is, why? I think the answer is pretty straightforward. It all boils down to one question. Do you understand what being a doctor generally entails? Shadowing is your opportunity to gain clinical exposure, and really, because you're applying to become a clinician, it can make or break your application. Before I go forward though, I want you to pause this video right now and go into the comment section below and tell me what are your greatest difficulties with shadowing. Is it that you can't find a gig? Or that when you shadow, you just don't really know what you should be doing? Whatever it is, I'm here to help and I want to hear your specific problems. Okay, let's get back into it. Shadowing, like I said, can make or break your application. Personally though, I think it makes sense. If you're going to dedicate at least 7 years of medical school and hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into your education, then you should know what you're getting yourself into. More importantly, from an admissions committee's point of view, they should trust that you know medicine is right for you, and that they won't give up one of their seats for a student who will quit halfway because they realize then that medicine is different from the TV shows. I ask that you take shadowing seriously. Little or no clinical experience will certainly minimize your chances of gaining admission to medical school. If you follow along with my channel, you'll know that applying to medical school is a big game of probability. Some things increase your probability and others reduce it. Don't let your lack of shadowing or clinical experience be that thing that causes you to be overlooked. Alright, let's transition into the benefits of shadowing. In my mind, there are 3 clear benefits to shadowing. The most important of which is that it will help you confirm whether or not you want to be a doctor. Doctors aren't all like McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy. You already know that. But do you know what medicine really entails? What do you think the hours of a doctor are like? What do they do with the majority of their time? Are they in conference calls, dictating or typing patient notes, calling insurance companies, seeing patients in the clinic, operating on patients in the OR? Who do you think a doctor works with day to day? Are they just medical assistants, or maybe psychologists, nurse practitioners, insurance companies, pharmaceutical reps even? What types of patients do they see? How old are these patients? What is their typical socioeconomic status? Do they see the same patient over a long period of time? Or do they see many patients once or twice? What types of relationships does that allow them to build? What's the difference between working in an academic hospital versus a community hospital? How about in an outpatient clinic? Or the operating room? These are all pretty specific questions that don't get addressed until you put on the business casual and you follow a doctor around to observe what his or her life really is like. Personally, I learned a lot from comparing and contrasting different settings of medicine. I didn't know what specialty I wanted to go into, but I did want to make sure that I had the right context. I encourage you to do the same. Shadow a wide variety of settings, from a community primary care clinic to an academic hospital to the operating room. Every setting has a different set of teams with a different set of challenges. Again, they're all medicine, but different environments I thought were better for me than others. I expect it'll be the same for you. Shadowing will also show you what particular traits are embodied within a good and a bad doctor. You'll start to recognize traits that you share with clinicians, and you'll either gain confidence and begin to truly see yourself in the field of medicine, or you'll realize that this just isn't for you. And again, I want to say, that's perfectly okay. This is what shadowing is for. To see if the investment that medicine requires is worth it for you. The second benefit is that shadowing helps you answer the godforsaken question, why medicine? Shadowing exposes you to a physician's lifestyle. You'll find your own answers to how they spend their workdays. In addition, you'll understand more about their specialty and the types of patient cases they see. You'll have the opportunity to meet and become familiar with patients, and if you're lucky like me, you'll meet that one patient that you'll always remember. The patient you'll write about during your medical school apps and use as inspiration when things get difficult. If you have the opportunity, You may shadow for longer periods of time and see the same patients as they undergo treatment. This can give you a unique longitudinal experience, enabling you to understand what medicine can and cannot do. I had the opportunity to shadow a neurosurgeon, and one of the most eye-opening experiences was being able to follow this patient pre-operation, during the actual operation in the OR, post-operation in the neurosurgeon's clinic, and also post-operation a couple months later in the neurologist's clinic, who I also shadowed. I learned how the disease affected the patient's day-to-day life. I learned from the surgeon what the treatment plan was and the rationale behind it. I saw the surgeon physically manipulate the patient's brain to correct for the disease, and again I learned from the neurologist what drugs could be used to ensure the maximum efficacy of the operation over time. This unique experience gave me lots of point of view to really understand what it was like being that patient. I saw him before, during, and after, and I saw him get better throughout that time. And that story, that experience, was really impactful for me. Medicine, although it took some time, turned that man's life around. 3. The third benefit of shadowing is the mentorship, / the letters of recommendation, of course. At heart, physicians are educators, and that doesn't exclude pre-med students like you and I. While you won't know everything about neuroanatomy or particular bugs and drugs, you'll have a professional mentor to build a strong relationship with. You may have the opportunity to join in on conference calls or board meetings and get a real sense of all the responsibilities, not just the medical ones, of a physician. Actively being inquisitive while shadowing will show your mentor that you're serious about medicine, and this will allow the physician to support you and defend you in writing through a strong letter of recommendation later down the line. How to obtain shadowing. Alright, so we understand that shadowing is important. Let's take action now and figure out how to land a shadowing experience. There are 4 general ways to obtain it. Number 1, the family or friend connect. If you have a physician in the family or a physician as a family friend, feel free to reach out to them. If you have another pre-med friend that has shadowed a doctor local to you, perhaps he or she could connect the both of you. Chances are, they'll be more open to the idea. If not, they may be able to connect you with a colleague of theirs that can help. Option number 2, cold calling or cold emailing. Google is your friend here. If you want to supplement Google, feel free to pick up a copy of the Yellow Pages. However you do it, gather a list of contact phone numbers or email addresses and get in contact with a practice manager or administrator. He or she can forward your request to the physician, and fingers crossed, you'll get a call back within the week to discuss your background and what you're looking to get from the experience. This was how I went about getting my first shadowing experience with the neurosurgeon I talked about earlier. He then actually acted as my connect for other specialties, including the neurologist I shadowed after him. As a general tip, don't be disheartened. Physicians, like all of us, are busy people, if not busier, and most of the time it's difficult to incorporate another person in the clinic workflow. It doesn't mean anything personal, just as more work that they're willing to do at the time. I mean, I sent out 25 emails, and I just looked back, I got 3 responses. 2 of which relied on the fact that the physician was an alumni from my undergraduate institution, and the third just wasn't logically feasible. Keep at it, and remember, you just need one door to open, and from there, you'll see where it takes you. Option number 3, academic mentors. You may work with physicians in an alternate capacity. Perhaps your research PI is an MD PhD, or you assist resident directors by showing applicant residents which room their next interview is at. This was one of my volunteer experiences. You can connect with these resources and see whether they, or a colleague of theirs, would be willing to let you shadow. Number 4, a dedicated shadowing program. There may be dedicated clubs at your undergraduate institution or programs at your local hospitals that offer structured shadowing. Look into getting involved with these, as they do most of the legwork for finding suitable physicians for you to shadow already. It's an easy ticket in, but, of course, everyone else knows that, and it's tough to get admitted. If you are accepted into one of these clubs, take advantage of those shadowing opportunities. What other things should I consider while shadowing? Well, for one, shadowing duration. If you only shadow a couple of hours here and there, you won't really get a good sense of what being a physician is like. I think the best approach is to ensure you have a shadowing experience lined up for your winter or summer break. Then, spend an entire week with that physician, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then, you'll have a strong sense of what the job entails. Personally, I tallied about 100 to 150 hours with 3 to 4 different physicians by the time I applied to medical school. Looking back, I don't think that much was necessary. In all honesty, I think 50 hours is really a good average benchmark to hit. Remember though, it's about what you learn from what you observe. If you can speak well to your clinical experiences in 25 hours, then all power to you. If you can't say a single thing of value even though you shadowed 200 hours, then really your time was wasted. 2. What should you expect? Do know that your clinical experiences are minimal. I mean, the physician also knows that. If anything, it's non-existent at this point, and that's perfectly okay. You should expect to stand back and observe what the physician does in the patient room, outside the patient room, and how the physician-patient relationship plays out. Make sure to observe actively and have a journal with you just in case you can jot down any relevant questions that you can discuss with the physician later. Obviously, don't ask questions while the patient is in the room. Try to be as little of a change to the physician's workflow as possible, but when it's appropriate, show the physician just how much you're interested in learning about this field. 3. Shadow widely. Check out primary care. Check out the operating room. Check out an academic hospital. Check out a community hospital. Do as many uniquely contextual shadowing experiences as you can. They can only serve to provide you with more information to inform you better as to what type of medicine you'd enjoy most. Take good notes. This is my biggest regret of all. When it comes to write your medical school application, you'll want to flip back through these notes and jog your memory. You'll want to remember meaningful individual patient cases and talk about them with stark detail. Your memory is more fallible than you think. Treat this experience seriously, observing actively and asking pointed questions so that everyone can use their time to the best of their abilities. When you get home, spend an hour, spend 2, writing detailed notes about what you learned that day, what you saw, and anything that you think may be helpful to remember in the future. Lastly, have prepared questions. I'll link a set of my favorite questions in the description box below, but if the patient cases are a little too complicated for you to fully comprehend, have a set of lifestyle questions that you want answered. Would your physician recommend going into medicine to his or her child? Why or why not? What does your physician think are important characteristics in a good physician? What stands out in bad physicians? How did your physician choose what specialty he or she went into? What are the pros and cons of that specialty? The pros and cons of the context that they practice medicine in? There are infinite questions for you to better understand what the profession of medicine is truly like. Ask what you're interested in. If you're a female shadowing a female physician, ask about starting a family. Many of my female friends are worried that medicine comes at a cost of family starting. Ask your physician about her experience. In conclusion, medicine is a long and arduous journey, and it makes little sense for you to dedicate a big portion of your life to it, if it just isn't right for you. Shadowing can act as a crucial piece to help you answer that question, and as a result, it's an important piece for admissions committees to know whether or not you've done your due diligence. It is difficult to obtain, but it's really not impossible. Just remember, for many things, including medical school admissions, you just need one door to open. That's all for today. Thanks for sticking around, and I'd love to hear about your shadowing experiences. What went well? What didn't go so well? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm still at a 100% YouTube comment response rate, and I'm not looking to lose that title anytime soon. As always, if you liked the video, throw me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, subscribe to that channel and hit that bell button. Until next time, do me a favor, take it easy.